Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now. This is Blueprint Explosive Exclusive, and I'm Heena Gambhir. You know, in last few months, we have seen renewed push to repair India-Canada ties from both the sides. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met his Canadian counterpart, Mark Carney, in June on the sidelines of the G7 summit. The meeting gave rise to hopes of improved relationship between the two countries after ties nosedived in 2023 following the diplomatic fallout over Khalistani separatist Hardeep Nijjar's killing. Now, Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand is coming to India next week to give further momentum to ongoing efforts to reset ties with New Delhi. Ahead of her visit, her first in fact, after assuming office earlier this year, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also met her on the sidelines of the UNGA summit in New York, the assembly session there. Canadian Foreign Minister's India visit assumes significance as it comes close on the heels of Bishnoi gang being listed as a terrorist entity by Carney administration. The statement from Canada's Ministry of Public Safety described Bishnoi gang as a transnational criminal organization operating primarily out of India. But viewers, just days after the Bishnoi gang was tagged terrorist entity, the group has been involved in yet another shooting incident in Canada. The visuals you can see on your screens right now. This time, multiple properties of a restaurant owner has been targeted in Surrey, in Canada. Bishnoi gang member Goldie Dillon claimed responsibility for the attacks through a social media post. He alleged that the restaurant owner harassed his employees and withheld their salaries. He also issued a warning that if other restaurant owners behave in the same way, there will be consequences for them too. Catch a glimpse of how Bishnoi gang members are running riot on the streets of Canada. Now, viewers, the Bishnoi gang has long been on the radar of Indian agencies as it has been involved in a number of high-profile criminal acts, both in Canada and here in India. Let's take you through some of the incidents from the recent past. September 2025, you would recall firing outside Disha Patni's Bareilly residence. Bishnoi-linked gang had claimed responsibility. August 2025 again claimed credit for shooting at Kapil Sharma's cafe, Caps Cafe. Then October 2024, killing of Maharashtra politician Baba Siddiqui, another important case linked to the Bishnoi gang. And then who can forget Salman Khan and the threats that keep going to Salman Khan again and again. Shooting also was reported outside Salman Khan's Mumbai residence earlier in April. Then in December 2023, murder of Rajput leader Sukhdev Gogamedi. May 2022, murder of Punjabi singer Sidhu Moosewaला is something that also needs to be highlighted here, how Lawrence Bishnoi gang, in fact, is linked to several high-profile cases here in India as well, and there are cases of violence, arson that's emerging from Canada too. The concern is this, viewers, is this reign of terror unleashed by Bishnoi gang turning into a threat for India-Canada ties, just like Shield to K Brigade pushed the ties between the two nations to the another under Justin Trudeau. And that's something that we are going to be discussing this evening on Blueprint Explosive Exclusive. Are gangs now going to decide how diplomatic relationships will be between two countries? To discuss it, I'm joined on the broadcast by Sushant Sareen, who is Senior Fellow at ORF. We also have with us Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat. Good evening to both of you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here on this edition of Blueprint Explosive Exclusive. Now, Sushant Sareen, I want to begin by asking you, K-terror bloomed under Trudeau, literally, and India-Canada ties nosedive. There are hopes of a reset under Carney, but do you think Bishnoi gang and what's happening in Canada and in India as well has the potential to cast a shadow on this resetting of ties that we are hoping for?
I think that's a no-brainer, Heena, because let's face it, it's not just a Trudeau problem, what happened 2 years back or more than 2 years back on this K-gang thing. This is a Canada problem. Because the problem has become so big because most of these Khalistani thugs have inserted themselves into the Canadian body politic. they are in the politics, they are in administration, they are in the police, they are in the media, and they have weaponized their voting power much beyond what it is worth. So they project themselves as being a very pivotal vote bank for any Canadian political leadership or anybody who wants to become a politician in Canada. They have positioned themselves in a way that their support becomes critical, which actually it is not. But nobody wants to really call the bluff. So one, we have to understand this is a Canada problem. Secondly, it's a Canada problem again because most of these thugs have been given a run of the place. Partly because they are so well inserted. It's like a mafia that nobody really wants to act against them. And which is why these fellows are so brazen about carrying out criminal acts, posting them on social media, and disguising old-fashioned thuggery, extortion, murder, as though they are some kind of modern-day Robin Hoods, which they are certainly not. They are plain and simple criminals and thugs and extortionists. And Canada needs to really crack down on them. The problem is going to be that if the Canadian authorities are going to let these guys influence Canadian politics and Canadian law and order, and just take cosmetic measures by naming some of these groups as terrorist groups, that's not going to solve the problem. And this will continue to bedevil relations between India and Canada, which is unfortunate. Because both countries have a lot more to gain, then let these guys run riot with the relationship.
Okay. Ambassador Sajanhar, what is your point of view? Because the kind of reports that we are getting almost on a regular basis from Canada and from India as well is Bishnoi gang following the footsteps of K-Goons there. And do you think now these gangs are going to dictate how relationships should be between two countries? I mean, can that happen without political intent? Do you see intent under Carney administration to deal with this menace?
Yeah, thank you very much, Heena, for having me on the show. My take is slightly different. I'm a little more sanguine because what I find is that while Justin Trudeau and India were poles apart as far as their assessment of the problem and the response to the issue is concerned, find that Mark Carney and, the Indian dispensation, we are very much on the same page. You have already mentioned about the meeting of the Canadian Foreign Minister with our External Affairs Minister on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. She is going to be visiting India. There is, in terms of, the trust level between the two sides, we have also exchanged our High Commissioners. Our High Commissioner Dinesh Patnaik is already in Ottawa, and the Canadian High Commissioner is also here. So there is the desire on both sides to work together. Most important thing, on this is that we have been telling the Canadian authorities that Bishnoi, Lawrence Bishnoi might be in a prison in Gujarat, high security prison since 2015. 10 years he's been behind bars. But he is running an empire of 700 goons, of militants, of terrorists, of extortionists all over the world from there. So far, the Canadian government under Trudeau had not been willing to take our warning seriously that it is the Bishnoi gang and its members who are running riot in terms of taking over this, conducting this conspiracy, terror acts, extortions, gun running, etc., etc. But now they have come on the same page. They have declared that Bishnoi gang is a terrorist gang. It gives their law enforcement authorities much greater power to go after them. Now, of course, one can say, that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So we'll really have to wait and see how they work on that. But, at the level of the Prime Minister, when Prime Minister Modi was there for the G7 summit, etc.
Right.
And, there was a good meeting, good exchange of views. And I think as far as And now let me put in a bit of, very quickly put in a bit of geopolitics also, because Canada is also facing a huge pushback as far as the United States is concerned. You know, we heard what Mr. Trump had to say. We want this to be the 51st state of the United States and so on and so forth. And even on the Canada, Mexico, North America, that free trade agreement, there have been lots of problems. Now, India, in that sense, is a ray of hope for Canada. And so I think they will be very mindful of what India's position is, India's views is. And the last point there, you know, when these gangs, Heena, are running amok in Canada, you know, it's the law and order situation in Canada that is getting adversely impacted. Of course, these people are also doing all these heinous activities in India, but I limit myself only to Canada. And they, I think they will see the merit of what we've been telling them. And it's their own interest that they take action against.
Right. Mr. Sushant Sareen, do you see that happening? Because I was just looking at some data, and MEA has pointed out that there are about 26 pending Indian extradition requests with Canada, which includes individuals with Lawrence Bishnoi gang as well. I mean, this message that it's very serious about mending ties with India?
So, Heena, I am afraid I'm not as sanguine as Ambassador Sajjanhar is because of 3 or 4 reasons. One, you know, if just banning a terror organization which empowers a particular country to take action, stricter action against them, was the, magic potion that would work, it would have worked in Pakistan, would it not? But in Pakistan, we know that the Pakistani authorities use terror groups against India as a leverage. In Canada, the dynamic is different, but nevertheless, they turn a blind eye. So until that political sanction which is given to these terrorists and thugs is not stopped, it won't change. Secondly, again, I'm not as sanguine as Ambassador Sajjanhar on the geopolitics changing. Because, look, when the push comes to shove, be rest assured, whether it's Canada, UK, you name the country, they will all go on all fours to prostrate themselves before Donald Trump and the United States. They do not have the staying power. And if anybody thinks that they will see India as a counterweight to the United States, I'm afraid that's not happening. And then finally, you know, on this, this whole question of extradition. Look, the fact of the matter remains that if the Canadians were to start acting on those extradition requests, and in the first instance, forget about extradition. Let us see if they're cracking down on these guys and putting them in jail under, these provisions of anti-terror laws. We haven't seen any serious movement on that so far. But let us assume once that happens, then we will come down to the extradition request bit. On that, I suppose even we have to make a much stronger case than what we normally do. Just sending an extradition request is not enough. The case of the person whom we are seeking to extradite has to be so compelling that the other country does not have any problems in extraditing the fellow. Our problem has also been that very often the case which would probably be okay in coming to know that this guy is involved in a particular offense is not normally enough, is not prosecutable. So I think there's a problem out there, which is why we need to, clean up our own act insofar as the law and order and criminal justice machinery in India is concerned. So I'm not very sanguine if things will move in the right direction. Yes, they are back on the rails, as Ambassador very correctly puts it, but that's cold comfort, really. If you ask me.
Ambassador Sajjanhar, at the same time, amidst all of this, by the way, Canadian Prime Minister has praised US President Donald Trump for helping bring about peace between India and Pakistan. The ceasefire claim that he's been making, all this while has got an endorsement now from Mike Carney as well. So now what will you say? Would you like to change your opinion?
Not at all, not at all. Thank you very much. I will try to respond. Meaning, I take Sushant's points, and I think they are very valid points. But let me give, one or two counters to that. Number one, that I myself said, whether they have designated it as a terrorist gang, terrorist group, the proof for the pudding will be in the eating. But my point there would be that if they did not want to really take any action, why would they designate it as a terrorist gang? They could have let business go on as usual under Justin Trudeau and let it be like that. But in terms of the foreign minister also coming here, such quick exchange of high commissioners, I think there is keen interest on both sides that we need to make relations. The second point about the United States, I agree with. I'm not saying that India will be a substitute for the United States, not at all. But I think all countries, including India, will start hedging away from the United States. I know that the Canadian dependence on the United States is huge. It's much more than even India's. But they will start hedging around, and in that context, India will be a good pole. The last point that you made about Mark Carney, all countries will try to massage Mr. Trump's ego, because that is what they know, that is what will get, because that is what they know, that is what will get them some benefit.
Well, we'll of course have to see what happens next. A lot of developments taking place on that front as well. I'm completely out of time, but appreciate you gentlemen, Mr. Sushant Sareen and Ambassador Sajjan Har. Thank you for joining us here on this discussion. Heading into a short break.